GTA 6 has a $7 billion lie. Now, I don't know what that lie is yet, but we're going to find that out. Now, this is a video that I've had queued up for literally weeks to watch. Just things kept happening, news kept coming out. So it kind of got pushed back and back and back. And of course, we know GTA 6 isn't coming till next year. So I kind of put this one on the back burner, but I'm interested. What is the $7 billion lie that GTA 6 has? And let's hear what Legendary Drops has to say about it.
Statistical chances of you hitting the Mega Millions is something like 1
It's 50-50. Either you do or you don't.
in 302 million.
Oh, I guess it was
which
wrong.
is like 0.00003% or something like that. If you guys saw somebody win the lottery, would you then assume that you could do the exact same thing? Investing all of your time.
Well, again, it's 50-50. Either you do or you don't.
And all of your energy into trying to essentially replicate luck, manufacture luck is what you're doing. The video game industry does. A few things have happened recently.
I don't know where he's going with this.
That paint the perfect image of how AAA is wasting its resources and setting expectations for things that they just cannot achieve. Oftentimes making games that nobody's asking for because they're not making the games for you. They're making them for somebody else.
No, they're making them for
making
money.
them for themselves.
Or that.
How believable does it sound that for many of these publishers in the industry right now, they are benchmarking themselves up against some of the greatest games in the industry, not based on their quality, not based
Is this going to be about Mind's Eye?
on how fun the game is or how much the players like it, but no, instead, how much money that game made. These executives are so delusional that they're looking at games like Minecraft, Fortnite, and even Grand Theft Auto and saying, yeah, my game can do that.
Yeah, okay, I see where he's going with this.
Today, we're talking about how Grand Theft Auto 6 is apparently being projected to make $7 billion in the first 2 months of its release.
Oh my
And how
God.
the success of that franchise, as well as a handful of a few others, have been leading the games industry around by its nose for the past decade.
Well, I would say Call of Duty actually falls into this one, where Call of Duty is this massive outlier, where it seems as though no matter what Call of Duty does, people still play it. And the one exception to this is what's been happening lately with Battlefield. Battlefield 6 revealed itself, and all of a sudden it seems like everyone has jumped ship and been like, well, if Call of Duty's not going to listen to what we're doing, or to what we want, let's jump to Battlefield. And I think eventually there is that tipping point, but I think he's right. Like there's these outliers, like a Minecraft, like a Roblox, like a Fortnite, like a GTA, that are just on this peak, and they're so big that they can't fail. And then every other studio thinks, well, if I make a similar live service game, it'll do the same thing.
Did you guys know that EA apparently thinks that Battlefield 6 is going to bring in more players than the entire franchise has put together?
So yeah, so Battlefield 6 looks very, very good, and I think it's going to be very good. But to think that it's going to sell 100 million copies is insanity.
But before that, a word from today's sponsor. Watcher of the Realms is rolling out its second anniversary
Don't know
update,
what
and it's
this is.
probably its biggest one yet. It's a fantasy RPG available
that's what
both
it
on
is.
PC and mobile with over 200 heroes across 10 factions. The latest edition is a brand new tactician class, which adds a repositioning mechanic that lets you shift heroes mid-fight during their ultimates. It's a flexible system that lets you block, intercept, and push offensively depending on the situation. Two new heroes, Morden and Valara, are leading the charge. Both come with their own unique
So,
bond skill that can
it's like
instantly
a,
reposition, knock
Raid
back
Shadow
enemies,
Legends
reduce
style game,
magical
kinda.
resistance, and buff your team on the fly. There's also a major in-game event right now, Immortals Redemption, where just logging in daily can net you 119 free summons, a legendary hero, cosmetics, and more. Plus, there are new mini-games, guild vs. guild battles, and even a personalized recap of your journey so far. If you've been curious or you haven't checked in for a while, now is probably the best time. You can click the link in the description below or scan the QR code on screen to try Watcher of the Realms for free on PC and mobile. Did you guys know that since the release of Grand Theft Auto 5 in 2013, the franchise has made over $10 billion as of this past May, or that Grand Theft Auto 5 is the fastest...
So Grand Theft Auto franchise revenue hits 9.72 billion with 183 earned in Q4. So they think it's going to make 7 billion in 2 months.
selling entertainment product in media history, earning $1 billion in just 3 days, or that Grand Theft Auto Online in 2021 alone pulled in almost $1 billion by itself.
Okay, let's assume that GTA Online is not going to come out for the first 2 months of the game. Let's just assume that, okay?
Ever since Grand Theft Auto 3 reimagined this series as a 3D narrative sandbox, the franchise has printed money. It is one of the youngest and fastest growing in the industry, only trailing behind Mario, Tetris, and Pokemon in total sales. Grand Theft Auto 5 itself is second only to Minecraft in all-time units sold. We've already talked on this channel about how publishers and journalists across...
Am I wrong to say to make 7 billion in the first 2 months, they would have to sell 100 million copies in 2 months? Is that right? I think that's right. 100 million out of 0 out of 7. So $70, assuming the game's $70, that's 100 million copies. That's actually more doable than I thought.
Across the industry have been basically begging for...
I know we're saying that the Battlefield can't do it, but GTA is another beast altogether.
Grand Theft Auto 6 to raise the standard price of games to $100, not because that price is justified, but because they know that Rockstar could actually get away with it. GTA 6 could launch at any price point and it would still likely sell. While I disagree with the idea of using Grand Theft Auto to set a pricing precedent, because let's be honest, nobody else can pull that off and games just aren't worth that kind of money, I can't deny the reality. If any game could do it, it's this one. Barring any catastrophic failure, this game will sell no matter what. I've already seen millions of players tune in just to watch a trailer. At this point, whether or not this game even meets expectations probably doesn't even matter. And that brings us to today, because now analysts are predicting that Grand Theft Auto 6 will make $7 billion in its first 2.
So the only problem with that, so GTA 5 sold over 215 million units. But you have to keep in mind it's also not going to launch day one on PC. That's another thing I forgot to mention.
2 months. In an article from Insider Gaming titled GTA 6 will make $7 billion in 2 months, it's predicted, Grant Taylor Hill writes, "It's no big secret that Grand Theft Auto 6 will likely be the biggest game launch in history.
Yeah,
it's set to
100%.
shatter records worldwide and will easily shift millions and millions of copies within minutes of hitting the shelves. One venture capitalist firm, driven by investment in gaming, has taken an analytical stance, making a bunch of predictions, including an ambitious suggestion that Grand Theft..."
Do you want to hear something funny? A lot of people don't know this. When games are launched, like big games, like a GTA or a Call of Duty or a Battlefield or any of these huge games, one of the reasons why they do preloads is because if they don't do preloads and everyone starts downloading the games at once, it actually crashes certain infrastructure's internets. For example, when oddly Black Ops 6 launched, a bunch of the internet in Alaska crashed because too many people were downloading the game. This really doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about. I just know someone who works in internet, and they had a big problem in Alaska on Black Ops 6 launch day, and he's like, he messaged me, he said, "Call of Duty just came out today, didn't it?" And I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because Alaska's internet's down." Like, not all of it, but like it's just a good chunk of it. And I didn't know that was even a problem or something. This game, if they don't do a slow rollout of downloads, it's going to crash every internet ever.
Auto 6 will generate $7.6 billion in revenue in just 60 days of launch. On LinkedIn, Konvoy's Josh Chaplin posted a series of predictions based on internal chats at the firm. For those not in the know, Konvoy is a firm focused on investing in platforms and technologies on the frontier of gaming. The internal analysis of Grand Theft Auto 6's future yielded a diverse platter of predictions, some more obvious than others. For instance, the team suggested that Grand Theft Auto 6 will be the greatest video game release of all time, which is almost a given. They also suggested that Grand Theft Auto 6 Online, or whatever it's going to be called, will accommodate 200-player lobbies and will...
Isn't the current leak that it's the 94-player lobby or something like that?
...host a thriving UGC component on the platform. One of the most ambitious predictions was centered around Grand Theft Auto 6's envisioned revenue. We predict Grand Theft Auto 6 will generate $7.6 billion in revenue in the first 60 days of its launch. Current release date, May 26, 2026. This will be the greatest video game release of all time, shattering player, viewership, and revenue records.
Hear me out. I wonder if when GTA 6 Online launches, if Rockstar will make more money that day than the sales of the game. I wonder.
They estimate in a 2-month window, Grand Theft Auto 6 will ship 85 million copies at $80 per game. The team at Konvoy also factored in GTA Plus subscriptions, which they estimate will skyrocket when GTA 6 is released. As of 2025, Grand Theft Auto 5 has sold 215 million copies, and it just took 3 days for them to reach $1 billion in sales. Within a single day, 11 million copies were sold. Grand Theft Auto 6 arguably has more hype behind it than Grand Theft Auto 5 did, given the trailers for the game have already broken viewership records twice. There's a bigger, hungrier audience, the technological leaps seem even more monumental, and Rockstar is playing the marketing game perfectly.
Yeah.
That, my friends, is a lot of money, but funny enough, it wasn't the number that caught my attention. It was who was doing the predicting. The firm behind that number is Konvoy Ventures, a venture capitalist firm that is focused on video games and emergent tech. They don't make games, they build funds, influence investment strategies, and funnel capital into early-stage startups, all while helping to set industry-wide expectations. And they are not alone. Alongside a slew of mutual funds, VCs, and
So it's in their best interest to hype this up.
institutional investors, firms like Konvoy have warped the trajectory of AAA game development by treating anomalies like Grand Theft Auto as a baseline. They are all a part of the same apparatus that projected that the video game industry would see infinite growth during what they called the new normal of COVID lockdowns, all of which failed, leading to industry-wide layoffs and game cancellations. This needs to be said, it's not developers asking for billion-dollar launches. It's not the writers or artists or designers that are scoping their games for mass market appeal. That pressure is coming from the top, from firms that are managing hundreds of billions of dollars in assets, projecting 8% annual growth on an industry that is already nearing $300 billion in market cap. These investment firms aren't looking for sustainable returns. They are benchmarking success against outliers and assuming that every investment can follow suit. If GTA 5 can do it, why can't you?
Well, because you're
and
not
that
GTA
mindset
5.
is destroying this industry right now. These investment firms are often targeting established publishers like EA, Tencent, Activision, Blizzard, Ubisoft, companies that are big enough to be able to absorb the risk, at least for now. And once they're invested, they want growth, constant, aggressive, exponential growth, not just profitability, growth. That's why we've seen games as a service take over the last couple of years, because reoccurring revenue models are much easier to be able.
Well, it's simpler than that. Games as a service has infinite money potential, whereas just selling a $70 game, there's a big cap there. Like selling 100 million copies of your game, like very few games have ever done that. And even if you do that, that's $7 billion. I guarantee you Call of Duty will probably make $7 billion ish, even though their game's not doing great this year, probably on microtransactions alone. So like you see the difference.
Able to forecast and monetize at scale. So investor logic says, go big or go home. Suddenly your games just can't be fun anymore. They need to be sticky, scalable, monetizable, commodifiable. And that's how you get these games that have $400 million development budgets and games that sell millions of copies but still fail to meet expectations.
Or meet
And when
revenue.
a firm like Konvoy goes public with a $7.6 billion sales projection, it doesn't just set expectations for Grand Theft Auto 6, it moves the goalposts for everybody else. Other studios and other games are going to get compared to that figure. Other publishers are going to get asked why their portfolio is not performing at that same level. Suddenly, every shooter now needs to be Fortnite, every open world game needs to be GTA, and every roadmap is drawn with that fantasy in mind. I mean, look no further than EA reportedly planning for Battlefield 6 to reach 100 million users. That is 5.
So the one thing I will say is that's users. That is users, not sales, which is more realistic. I think they just announced that Black Ops 6 has had 50 million users this year. So they also didn't say in 1 year or 2 years. They said in the lifetime of the game, and we don't know how long that is. So honestly, if they give this like three years to hit 100 million players, with the hype it currently has, it'll probably hit 20 at launch, 20 million at launch. Give it another couple months, hit 40, and then give it just a long burn. I don't know, maybe.
Times the sales of Battlefield 1, the highest selling entry in the franchise, which topped out at around 21 million copies sold.
So the highest selling of all time is 21 million copies. Let's say you immediately make well, when it comes out, the Battle Royale free to play. Let's just call that another 10 million players. So let's say a 31 million players baseline is the most a game's ever hit. It's a little lofty to go for 100 million.
In the 23 years of Battlefield, the entire franchise hasn't even hit 100 million. But now they think after the disaster of Battlefield 2042 that they're going to somehow pull in 100 million people. What are you thinking? How?
So this was before the reveal. I'm curious to hear if anyone has no, nothing 2 weeks ago. I'm curious if people have changed their sentiment since they've seen the reveal.
How do you believe these snake oil salesmen? Sure, part of that projection is because they're going to have a free-to-play battle royale mode that's meant to mimic Call of Duty. But there's always been a difference between those two games. Battlefield has never been Call of Duty. It's always been slower, more tactical, and more team-based. It's always had a more niche audience. It's still been a big game, just not that big. And instead of leaning into the things that make that game great, what made it resonate with its core audience, they are now chasing the same trends as everybody else. We need to be the next Fortnite. You know they've poured money into this thing. I guarantee $500 million or more. They've consolidated all of their Battlefield studios to work on...
Prediction. Battlefield 6 goes gangbusters. Huge launch. Tens of millions, maybe even, let's call it 30 million players get into this game. Battle Royale launches within a month. The player numbers drop below what they were when Battle Royale was released. Calling it.
On this one game. Even
someone clip it. We'll come back to it.
Created a Battlefield lab system to be able to get feedback in real time before the game was even in alpha. All of which they have ignored. Players said that they wanted meaningful classes, specialization, and a return to identity, and what they're getting instead is a flat system. No class restrictions, no unique weapon loadouts, everyone's going to be running the same guns, all in the name of accessibility. Not because they think it makes the game better, but because someone, somewhere, thinks it's going to help them hit that 100 million player number. This isn't about players. This isn't about developers. These decisions are being driven by mutual funds, investment firms, and executive leadership that could not care less whether the game is actually good or not, because they can't hear you through the money. But these expectations are not reasonable. They're fantasies being sold to shareholders, inflated by analysts, and then parroted by the media, all so the people at the top can cash out before the ship hits the rocks. In most cases, the money that's behind these projections is coming from elite investors who are essentially just playing blackjack with the lives of developers and customers. They manipulate sentiment, pump up the hype, and then they pull their money out just as the stock hits its peak. That's why
I don't think that if he's still talking about Battlefield here, I think it's a bad game to make this comparison about.
You often see a publisher stock drop the minute after a game releases because the people that are driving this cycle were never in it for the long haul. They're not here to build sustainable studios or good
just
games.
Publicly traded
they just
companies.
want to gamble. And the fallout, well, that lands squarely with the developers whose work gets scrapped, the studios that get shuttered, and the players that are stuck paying more for less. This is not just bad forecasting, it's manufactured pressure. From budget to scope to the tone of the marketing campaign, the product gets warped to serve somebody else's fantasy, and everybody else gets left holding the bag. I'm so exhausted. How do you guys not see what you're doing to yourself? These guys have to be addicts. That's the only thing that makes sense. That's why they're so high on AI right now, because it's the hot term. It brings in investors, and it could be the silver bullet that takes care of their budgeting issue that they have that they're using to be able to.
I have another friend that works at a big Fortune 500 company high up in HR. The way that they're adopting AI is insane. Three of their interview questions now at the company are: how do you use AI in your everyday, like at work currently? How will you use AI to do a better job at your job? And there was like one other one, and it's just like, you're basically answering a question on how we can fire you before we hire you. It is wild.
To chase these outlier successes that I just do not think you can compete with. I mean, look at Battle Royale right now. It's essentially the exact same games and has been the same games ever since the entire fad took on. Apex Legends, Call of Duty Warzone, Fortnite, PUBG. There really hasn't been anything else that's entered into that conversation. If anything, some of those are starting to lose popularity, and it's just entropy more than anything else. We've seen so many games come for the throne, and not a single one has made it. That's why I asked the question, do players even want it? These guys aren't asking that. I think some of them are, and they're coming up with the wrong answer. They're saying,
Well, that's what I'm saying about the battle royale in Battlefield. Like, do people actually want it? Like, that's the question I have. Because I saw a lot of comments on day one saying, oh, if this was an extraction shooter they were doing, it would take over extraction shooters. But I feel like that's the hot topic right now, not battle royale. Maybe I'm wrong.
extraction shooter, and the reason why they're coming up with that answer is because they're not asking the question for the players, they're asking it for their investors. The problem is these guys are looking at edge cases. They're looking at cultural phenomenons, and they're saying that this is how much video games can make. But they don't make that kind of money. You know, last year, over 20,000 video games released, or almost 20,000 video games released. 50 of them were high-profile games. How many of them actually made it? How many of them actually did well? How many of them did insane?
I wonder if this is something I look at. This actually might be a chat GPT
You're benchmarking
question.
yourself against statistical anomalies.
Let me ask you a
That's not
question.
sustainable. Even if you can recreate the quality, you can't recreate engagement. That's why I think that these investment strategies and all of these analytics that these guys are using right now is driving this industry into the ground because it's antithetical to the very industry itself. One of this year's most popular games is about selling drugs and riding around on a skateboard.
So the simple question I asked is, how many games made $1 billion in 2024? And it didn't really give an answer. It gave me 4 mobile games that made over $1 billion. Well, that is not helpful, chat GPT. No, let me try Google.
Cannot predict that. That is not something that you can merely just recreate. All you can do is just make something good, make it for the right reasons, keep your expectations in check, and hope for the best. But I just don't think that these guys see that. And I don't think that they're going to last. What I don't think many people in this industry understand is that while you can set yourself up for success, while you can plan everything
It says 11, but I don't think that's right because Call of Duty's not on the list, and we know that Call of Duty makes $1 billion every year, so. And almost all of them are mobile games, including Candy Crush being one of them.
you possibly can. You can make a great game. You can deliver what the players are looking for. You can time your releases well, but there are factors behind some of these breakout hits that you just cannot replicate. You can't plan for it. The kind of successes we're talking about, Fortnite, Minecraft, Grand Theft Auto, it's not even about the quality or even the popularity. It's about what these games mean to people, and lightning striking at the exact right place at the exact right time, and no amount of analytics or investor hype can bottle that. Honestly, I don't even think that you can manufacture some of the more realistic hits that we've seen recently. Helldivers 2, Marvel Rivals, Black Myth Wukong, Palworld, Schedule 1. These are still massive category-defining successes, but they didn't happen because somebody projected their way to a $1 billion launch. Do you think that Tyler 1, the solo dev behind Schedule 1, thought that he was going to move 6 million copies in just a couple of months? Do you think that Arrowhead expected Helldivers 2 to clear 12 million copies sold? Or that Game Science, making their very first game, had any idea that Black Myth Wukong was going to go on to sell 20 million copies in just its first month? Of course not, because there's no data to support that, no trend, just a game that hit at the right time with the right look, with the right pitch, at the right price, and sold it to the right audience. And that's what this industry keeps missing. These aren't just products, they're cultural events, and cultural events do not happen on a spreadsheet. Sometimes a game lands because of social context. Helldivers 2 hit because people were desperate for something less sanitized. The market was and still is oversaturated with competitive shooters. People loved the cooperation. The game was fun as hell to play, and the memes were legendary. Sometimes it's economic,
legendary.
a price point that just undercuts the competition right at the right time when people don't have a lot of money. And sometimes it's just chaos. Maybe a streamer picks it up. Maybe it just scratches an itch that nobody knew that they had, and suddenly you have a phenomenon on your hands, not because you engineered it to succeed, but because something clicked that nobody could have predicted. I mean, going back to Schedule 1, as much as I love that game, there is a real chance that none of us would have ever seen it if it wasn't for Queso and a few other content creators picking that game up and playing its free demo. That was one moment.
It's a good point. It's a good point, right? Like, one streamer plays it, it's like, oh, this is, and then it's provocative, right? And maybe it was guaranteed that a game like that with simple art style, with a kind of cozy feel to like a edgy style game, would have been picked up by some sort of streamer or content creator at some point, right? Like, maybe it was inevitable. but it happened.
A split-second decision, a handful of viral clips then followed, and suddenly it had online culture in a chokehold. I have seen publishers try to recreate this kind of breakout success through content creator campaigns, and sure, sometimes it works, but nothing beats genuine curiosity around an authentic product. That's the difference here. What they don't seem to understand is that authenticity does all of the heavy lifting on its own. The better and the more unique the game is, the more it resonates with the players, the more likely it is to seize one of those lightning in a bottle moments. But that only works if you're making something that people actually want. If you guys want to see this brain drain happen in real time, look no further than Splitgate 2. That game has lost 98% of its player base. They were reportedly paid out $400,000 to content creators threw even more money into their market.
I don't like this article. The more that I've seen this article pop up, the $400,000 to influencers, the more I think about it, that's not a lot of money. And if anything, they should have gone well over that. Like, the more I think about it, and like, I know some of the deals, like for example, with Scump that they were trying to make, that's a guy who could probably come up with a $400,000 deal just for himself. If he was to, if he had a deal where he had to stream the game like 2 times a week for months, just to drive popularity and get like his community playing with him, he could make that easily. Like, I've heard stories of like streamers making $1 million a stream to play certain games. So like that, I don't like that number.
They paid to go on stage at Summer Games Fest, which is reportedly anywhere from $250,000 to $500,000.
I didn't know that.
Just to stir up drama, calling out Call of Duty, screaming about Halo, wearing a Make FPS Great Again hat, the whole We're for Gamers cosplay routine. Meanwhile, the game itself is nothing more than Apex of Duty with portals, built around the same tired monetization systems and overused gameplay loops that everybody is burned out on right now. And this is what happened.
You want to know why one of the reasons why Fortnite became so popular is because it took the monetization system that was okay of the battle pass and did it way better. They had weekly challenges, they had, I think, daily challenges. They turned it on its head and made it different. And then the bundles came and everything like that. And now everyone uses that. Call of Duty uses it. And I don't think that'll be like, that'll get turned on its head until one company with a really good game does find something better and does something better, and then that'll be the thing. Because before that, it was loot boxes and supply drops.
Happens when these VCs take over. Splitgate 1 was a solid, genuinely fun game. But the second that money showed up, they cut support to that game less than a year after its launch to start over with a sequel, making a game that mirrors everything that everybody is sick of in this genre. I think that on some level, these companies do know that they can't manufacture everything, but their solutions, driven by the wrong motivations, consistently lead to worse outcomes. They look at what's already working in the industry right now, and they think the answer is just to do it bigger. Higher fidelity, celebrity cameos, licensed music, a cast that covers every single skin tone and identity, and then with the backing of investors, they pump hundreds of millions of dollars into something that completely misses the point, something that dilutes the very exact reason why some of these games found success in the first place. Take Schedule 1, I can already imagine the venture capitalist reboot, a AAA drug dealing simulator with photorealistic graphics, real-time grow technology, a dramatic score, maybe one of those fall prestige narratives about doing it for your family or fighting against the system. And in doing that, they would miss everything that made that game resonate. Its tone, its irreverence.
Hey, one thing that I don't like about Legendary Drop's videos is when he makes up these scenarios. Like, I get where he's going with this, but like, nobody's actually done this yet. Nobody's made a photorealistic scheduled one just for the narrative. And like, people on this side of things, they're always like referencing the narrative. Like, let's not look so deep here. It's like people want to make money and they think, oh, this game did well, let's make a better one. Like, that's like, look at toothbrushes, right? We had ones that weren't electric and now they're electric, and now there's ones that scan your entire mouth. Like, people are always going to try to take something that works and make it better. That doesn't mean there's a horrible narrative behind it.
Simplicity, it's stupidity, it's identity, and worse, when they see some of these games take off, these investors see that success and then they try to rush over to other indie publishers and try to force lightning to strike twice, only now with all of the wrong expectations. And that mindset, setting these impossible benchmarks and comparing them to unrelated titles, is one of the biggest drivers behind canceled games, shuttered studios, and mass layoffs right now. You've got legacy franchises that are going head to head.
And again, not looking in it too deep, that's just people being shit at their job, really. Like, if you're an investor And you're like, if you think you understand video games and you try to recreate something like that in that way, that just means you're a bad investor.
Titles that they have no business competing with. Dragon Age the Veilguard was originally conceived to be a live service game. Only later did they pivot back to going to single player, and while it's good that they recognized that mistake, it didn't stop that project from being completely creatively bankrupt by the time that it launched. What were those guys thinking? Why would anyone believe that the key to broadening your appeal or making more money is to erase the identity your audiences showed up for in the first place? I think the best counterexample to all of this is From Software. That's a studio that has built its name on being niche, on being challenging.
And this, by the way, what he's saying now completely contradicts what he's saying. Because From Software defined a genre with Souls-like, right? And now all of these studios, including one that he praised earlier in the video, Black Myth, is a studio that got funded for a bunch of money, made a game with the same type of genre, with good graphics, a different style, and it's really good, and people buy it. That doesn't mean there was a narrative behind it. They saw an area that is doing well, they made their style of game in it, and it went gangbusters, right? So again, it doesn't need to be a narrative. There doesn't need to be some sort of ideology. People see ways to make money and they go for it. And if they're bad at it and make a bad version of it, that just means they're shit at their job.
On being distinct. Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, each one redefining the last, slowly growing their audience without compromising what made their game special, and then came Elden Ring. That was a big swing, but instead of softening the experience or chasing mass market trends, they instead just made fundamental changes. They just gave players freedom. The core challenge didn't go anywhere, but now you could explore in any direction, experiment with your build, over level if you need to, and come back stronger. It didn't pander, it empowered, and that's what made that game resonate with such a wider audience than the series had ever experienced before. That game bent around the players, but it never broke what it was. Even their latest game, Elden Ring Night Rain, proves that point. On paper, it looked like FromSoft was chasing trends, shrinking zones, roguelike mechanics, co-op PvE. People thought it was a battle royale spinoff, but instead of falling into the trap of imitation, they built something unique. It had influences for sure, but people still actually liked the game. It was focused, well executed.
Exactly. So it was the complete opposite of what they're saying. Like I could be like, they followed the narrative, but no, it's just they're good at their job. So when they saw, oh, this genre is big, we have a gameplay style, maybe we could fit this into, they're good at their job.
And grounded in their design philosophy. And while the initial reception of the game was mixed, its authenticity won over time. And now most people look back on it fondly because, well, it's a good game. The more publishers that try to script success are the more people that are going to be strangling the possibility out of it. And until people stop chasing these outliers, until they stop pitching every single game like it's going to be the next GTA, Fortnite, Minecraft, or whatever else.
Yeah, I guess that's more so what he's saying is the expectations behind it and investors thinking that it has to do, like, if you're going to make a Souls-like game, do not expect it to sell the same as an Elden Ring. That I like 100%.
The cycle of over budgeting, audience confusion, and mass layoffs is not going to be going anywhere because games aren't investment vehicles, they're video games. And when you forget that, the people who pay for it aren't the ones who made the bet. I've been talking about this for a while, but there's a video I've been working on in the background where I actually go in to highlight just how misguided some of these decisions are and show the extent to which they actually affect the games that we play. The games that we buy.
I think the example that he should have given was Splitgate 2 throwing the battle royale, and he did like kind of go over it, but I think that will be a decision that will haunt that studio forever.
Tangible, visible ways that we actually see in games every single day. But I don't think that any of this is going to stop anytime soon because these guys are overinvested. There's too much money, there's too much on the line right now, and there's no way that they're going to back out. And this industry continues to make a lot of money. However, the wealth is starting to be distributed to the corners and not the center. And I think that's starting to take its toll. I really do. Looking at some of the ways that these companies have been managing themselves lately, some of the layoffs and the cancellations, yeah, I don't think things are looking good. It's not that you shouldn't be aiming for some of these incredible successes. I think that you should be trying to benchmark yourself against them, but you should be doing that with their quality, with the gameplay. You need to stop paying attention to how much money they made and start paying attention to how they actually made that money. You know, if I think about some of the most popular games or some of the success stories that we've seen over the last 5 years, every single one of them comes down to authenticity, quality, managing.
And this is where it's just not true. Like that. Look at the biggest games making the most money. They're live service games that have a ton of microtransactions. They're Call of Duties, they're Fortnites, there's like all of these games. And that doesn't come down. Like, you can't sit there and say, oh, Call of Duty made all that money because it's authentic to what it is. That's not true whatsoever.
Expectations and budgeting themselves appropriately. Every single one of them. I don't understand how you don't learn that lesson instead. You know, another thing is that when I look at some of these games, there's things that a lot of these companies are just out of touch. Their leadership is out of touch. Their motivations are out of touch. They don't understand common people. I look at a game like Grand Theft Auto. The reason why that series is done so well is because it's so relatable. They have always had their fingers on the pulse of society. They understand it on a level that not a lot of other people do. And because of that, they're able to create this really authentic experience that you just can't get anywhere else, where the people feel real and the world feels real. I remember in Grand Theft Auto 5, I was playing it, and there's this like foot race that you get in with this white lady that is just like very empowered, to say the least. And she's just screaming at you the entire time. I've met people like that in real life. When you play a game and you see something like that, and you see things like that multiple times while you're playing a game, it builds an experience that feels lived in. It feels like you're playing a game that actually
does so well.
And then that ends up becoming something that a lot of
Same
other
with Red
people
Dead
can
even.
resonate with, because then all of a sudden a clip gets shared online, or you're talking to a friend about what you saw or what you experienced or a quest that you were on, and they understand it. You guys joke about something else in real life, and then word of mouth takes over, and then the games pop off. That's the reason why some of these games do so well. But we're getting a lot of games that are being made by people that just don't have anything in common with the common people. How do you think that you're going to find any success in that? And it's not.
Well, I mean, it's the same argument as movies being made by billionaires, right? Like, Steven Spielberg is really ridiculously rich, but man, the guy can make movies, right? Like, he still is grounded and down to earth enough where he can make something that's relatable to people. And I mean, I think it's unfair to say that, but I think just in general, if I was to wrap this up into one statement, investors made video games worse. They just have. Yes, it allowed some video games to be made better than they otherwise would be, but at the same time, I think it made a lot of games that would have been really good a lot worse. Splitgate 2 is a perfect example. If the investors didn't have the hands in the pockets of the studio, the microtransactions wouldn't have been so egregious when it came out, and I bet you they wouldn't have put Battle Royale out right away, which I think pushed a lot of people away. Just that alone, those decisions I guarantee were made because of investors. And just like that, the game is going bankrupt. Like, it is. It just is. So like, I think that is the easiest example and easiest way to see that. And it's going to become a bigger and bigger problem. And yes, there's going to be, I think, some studios that rise to the top because of that, and others that just absolutely do not. And again, it's just people being bad at their jobs. It's plain and simple. That's all it is.